public hearing of the City of Evanston's Land Use Commission. The zoning ordinance directs this body to hear applications for map and text amendments, special uses, major variations, plan developments, appeals of the zoning administrator's decisions, as well as to make recommendations regarding the city's long-term planning goals and objectives. Depending on the type of matter, this commission will either be the determining body or make a recommendation to the City Council. Mr. Bebo, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Arevalo, Commissioner Berlin, Commissioner Puctel, Commissioner Harris-Ferre.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, Vice Chair Linball.
Here.
Commissioner Mombadi.
Here.
Commissioner Mangum.
Here.
Commissioner Miranchev.
Here.
With 5 members present, we have a quorum. Also present tonight from city staff, our neighborhood development services supervisor, Jeremiah Bebo, senior planner, Sam Hubbard, and assistant city attorney, I've forgotten your name already, I apologize. Kathy, right? Yep. Kathy Penrose. This is a formal hearing, and there are rules that govern these proceedings. Anyone who wishes to address the commission tonight on any matter on the agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. For cases, our procedure is to hear from staff on the documents on file and then receive other testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. Any person with a legal interest within the defined notification requirements of the subject property may present evidence, submit questions for the applicant or appellant, or seek continuance of the hearing. Please be sure to sign in on the public comment sheet, and if there are many people to sign up, the commission rules will allow the chair to limit the amount of time for each person's testimony, although typically we provide everyone 3 minutes to speak. All testimony will be taken under oath. When testifying, please state your name and address for the record. All testimony from presenters and members of the public, including specific questions for the applicant or appellant, shall be directed to the commission. Although we do not follow strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony to the proposal as it relates to the standards within the zoning ordinance and staff memorandum. These meetings are audio and video recorded, so it is critical that only one person speaks at a time and that the speaker is at a microphone so that all testimony is properly recorded. Thank you. We expect a high level of decorum to be maintained during these meetings, which includes preserving the right of every person speaking tonight to do so without interruption. Accordingly, please don't, react, cheering, booing, or that's not allowed. When all testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant will be given the opportunity for a rebuttal or a closing statement. The commission will then close the record and begin deliberations to consider the standards. The commission will make formal findings of fact based on the testimony and evidence presented, guided by the standards, the commission's knowledge of the community, and the recommendations of staff. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting or to a date certain. There are 2 cases, or rather 3 items on our agenda, 2 of which are cases. So is the applicant for the appeal for 1632 present? Okay. And what about 3233 to 3349 Central Street? Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, I will now conduct the oath statements for both in-person and if we have any online participants who wish to speak. If you plan on providing testimony in any of the cases scheduled this evening, please raise your right hand and say yes if you agree with this statement. So anybody who's planning on speaking. Okay. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you will provide in connection with this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. We'll now move on. We don't have minutes to approve this evening or any old business, so we can proceed to new business. Appeal at 1632 Sheridan Road. So, Mr. Bebo, I believe you're going to read this into the record?
Thank you. So tonight we have Thomas Conley, the property owner, and the applicant, who's appealing the zoning administrator's determination to deny zoning relief, minor variation case 26ZMNV-0022 for building lot coverage of 32%, where 30% is the maximum permitted, and rear yard coverage by accessory structures of 47.3%, where 40% is the maximum permitted, in order to construct a 3-car garage in the R1 single-family residential district and the local Lakeshore Historic District and landmarked as well. The Land Use Commission is the determining body for this case in accordance with Section 6-3-8-8. However, so based on recent discovery of how Section 6463 related to the rear yard coverage was interpreted by a staff member, I have since made the determination that the 40% rear yard coverage was incorrectly calculated. Based on how the rear yard coverage should be calculated, I've determined that the applicant's proposal is compliant with the regulation, and as such, the only variation necessary for the 3-car garage is from Section 6-8-2-7, which is the maximum building lot coverage in the R1 district. And just for a little bit of context, so the intent of both of these regulations is to prevent overcrowding of structures on a lot overall and in the rear yard for the other one. Overall building lot coverage is intended to limit how much of the entire property can be covered by building footprint, whereas the rear yard coverage is intended to limit how much specifically of the rear yard of a property can be covered. Without getting into the nitty-gritty, the biggest difference is that the footprint of the principal structure, or the home in this case, is not included in the rear yard calculation, since the rear yard is the area behind the home. The specific issue that I found as it relates to this case is that initially the applicant's walkways in the rear yard that they have currently were included in that calculation, and that's incorrect. And those walkways are just over 600 square feet, and they shouldn't have initially been included in that calculation. So tonight, really, the appeal will be from section, like I said, section 6-8-2-7, and only for the maximum building lot coverage of 32%, exceeding the 30% regulation.
Okay. Would the appellant like to come up and introduce yourself and name and address for the record, and go ahead.
I would like to thank you very much. My name is Thomas Conley. I live at 1632 Sheridan Road in Evanston. I'm the appellant in this case, and as Jeremiah said, we are asking for a minor variance for structure lot coverage from 30%, which is allowed, to 32%. So in short, it's a 2% change in coverage. So I'm going to try to be brief because I know you have a full agenda. Is that going to work? Yeah, okay. So this is the structure we want to build. I'm going to point out that structure is going to be built. See where the blue arrow is? There's currently a parking pad where we park 3 cars. One for us, one for our first floor tenant, and one for our second floor tenant. So there are 3 dwelling units on the property already. And we're just basically covering the parking pad. That's what we're asking for. The background. So you need a little bit of knowledge about the property. There are 3 dwelling units on the property. There are no garage spaces at all on the property. The property was constructed in 1850. My wife disputes that. She said it was more like 1858, but I will give her that courtesy tonight. we're still in disagreement about that. When this property was built in 1850, there were no cars. There was the coach house that was constructed for horses and carriages. And in 1902, they expanded the barn, I'm going to call it the barn, to add, because it's literally labeled a barn expansion, to allow them to put the carriages that the horses put in a different area. I believe at that point in time, they probably did create an apartment in the loft for the person who tended to the horses. So while a car may have been parked in the barn and coach house at one time, the barn and coach house was converted to two dwelling units more than 75 years ago. And then currently, as I said before, there are 3 cars parked on the open parking pads in the area proposed for the garage, and essentially we're enclosing the 3 parking pads. I'm going to stop here to go back to point number 1. There are 3 dwelling units in the property. That's an important part because it goes to standard for approval number 5, the least deviation possible. We need 3 parking garage spots because we have 3 dwelling units in the property. In fact, 3 is pretty much the minimum we should have with a full house and then two tenants. For example, right now we have a tenant on the first floor. There's 2 tenants. They have 2 cars. So we're not even providing sufficient parking for them. They have to park on the street. So I think that's important to understand with regard to our appeal. And then point number 4, which says while the cars may have been parked in the barn, it goes to standard for approval number 1. The difficulty is not self-created. This difficulty was created in 1858. So it is a part of the parcel of the property and not self-created. It was created by the passage of time and the creation and the change in humanity and the way they move around. Okay, so the reasons that we wanted to have this is first to have a garage. We want to have security. Cars that are parked back there because it's in the alley are broken into I won't say like regularly, but every year or two someone breaks into one of our cars or one of the cars is parked back there. The second is protection from the elements. Those are open. They are covered with snow and ice and other things. Protection from other hazards. I have a picture that will explain that one. Again, the reason is also there's a 3-car garage is needed because there are 3 dwelling units. It's needed because the parking is limited and restricted in the neighborhood, and particularly in front of our house. You cannot park in front of our house. We are at the bend at Sheridan Road across from the pond, and you cannot park within 30 to 40 yards of our house. And so it's not the end of the world, but it's not that convenient. The proposal is consistent with the adjacent properties because the neighboring homes have between 3 and 6 garage spaces, and each of them I have pictures of that. And then I just also wanted to note that one of the reasons why our lot coverage is low, will be as low as 32%, is that we removed the driveway. So our neighbors have driveways that run from the front all the way to the alley. We did away with that. As you see the parking in the front on the opposite side of the blue arrow. That was the original driveway that was done. Between that end and the back, we removed that entire driveway to create more open space without structures on it in the yard. So we're very conscious of the clutter, too much building on a lot, and so we removed it to create that, and we did that 20 years ago. So now that I've gone through the reasons, I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words, so here they are. So when we were talking about the weather being a problem and why we need garages, that's it. The snow, we get snow like that almost every year. And as my wife points out, she no longer has the strength and ability to scrape the ice off of the windows of her car. The second is this is a picture. It's supposed to be of the hail damage. we had to file a insurance claim. I know we have a picture, couldn't find it. I think this might be one of them. There was hail damage because these are outside and the cars were all pinged up. So we need a garage to protect from that. And then the other hazards that we were talking about, let's see, let's move. Okay, yeah, that's one of the cars. That's one of our tenants' cars that was parked under the tree that's back there. As you can see, it has been defiled by birds, and so we want to put them where they're protected. He came to me and said, "Hey, why is there? You'll have to pay to wash my car." I'm like, "I'm not paying to wash your car. I'll give you a bucket and a brush, but." Okay, so and it's also consistent with the neighborhood. So that's our neighbor to the north. That is a 3-car garage. This is our neighbor to the south. That is a 6-car garage. And this is our neighbor that's just south of that. That is a 3-car garage. There are some other houses at the end of the block that are kind of all together. Some of them have garages, some of them don't. And at least 2 of them park outside in their house in their driveway because that's all they have. They don't have a garage. So that's it. That's my presentation. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Merichev?
I have one question. In the building next to these open spaces that the 3-car garage will be, there is something called garage storage. What is it?
75 years ago, when they built the 2 units, they took part of that barn and they cut it in half. So now it's not large enough to accept a car. And so we have like the lawnmower in it. And
You're making a big remodeling of this building. Is that correct?
we have
You're adding half a story.
That's a very good question. We may. I have to replace the roof on the coach house. And as long as I was replacing the roof on the coach house, I thought maybe I'd raise it because it was built to the standards of the 1870s. And the bedroom, there's only 1 bedroom. It's really very small. And I'd like to expand it. And as long as we're doing that, we could add a 2nd bedroom. We've had several prospective tenants come in and say, I have a child, I just got a divorce, I'd love to live there. I said, there's no way you could put 2 people in this space. So we may add a 2nd bedroom to address those type of issues.
I was looking at that, just a suggestion, if it is feasible to you. If you flip the 2 rooms, the garage with the other room in the barn, so that the garage faces the alley, you can have 1 garage space over there. And you can build only a 2-car garage and eliminate any variances.
So the first floor, the space you were talking about is at the back facing the house. And on the other side of that wall is the first floor apartment. So I would have to remove the bedroom for the first floor apartment.
You can flip it so that it takes the garage space, the existing garage space. My point is I'm trying to help you eliminate the problems with the minor variance. You can have 2-car garage and 1 space inside the existing building when you remodel it.
So there's no room for another garage space in the first floor apartment, which is where where you're suggesting it goes. That would make the first floor, the bedroom for the first floor, too small. It just would be too small.
Just a suggestion.
No, we considered many things, like can we change this?
I hope so. That's why I'm asking this option, let's call it, and it is interior architecture. It's not matter of zoning board, but it could save you the minor variation.
I'm hoping to get approval for the minor variation since it's so minor. It will not affect anybody in my mind.
Okay. And I just wanted to clarify, the minor variation request for the coach house was approved. Is that correct? So that we're just talking about the garage variation.
That's correct. Yep, I did approve the minor variation that was related to the size of the ADU. So tonight is just for the variation for the 3-car garage.
Yes?
And I forgot to add, in the staff's letter to you in their report, they recommended that if the variance is granted, the approval include a condition that the improvement be constructed in substantial compliance with the submitted plans. We're in agreement with that. That's fine. We are not changing our plans, our design. We think it's perfect and in keeping with the neighborhood.
Other questions? All right. Thanks for now.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone here signed up to speak on this issue? And I don't think we have anyone online, do we?
Was anyone online wishing to speak on this case?
Okay. And now you have an opportunity to make another statement if you want. Otherwise, I can close deliberations and.
I do not wish to make any further statements.
All right, thank you. With that, I will close public testimony on this case, and now we're open for deliberations. Thoughts on the case? And I would note that because this is an appeal, what we need to really determine is whether or not the administrative decision was ill-considered, arbitrary, or erroneous. It's not necessarily going through the original standards. And we have heard from staff that the lot cover, the rear yard lot coverage, it was in error. So that I don't know if we need to take any action on that. So the only action we need to take is with respect to the building lot coverage requirement. So, I guess that's the first question. Do we believe that was arbitrary or ill-considered or erroneous in the calculation of the 32% versus 30%? Because, in order to change the ruling, that's a finding that we would have to make. So thoughts from commissioners?
I have a question for staff. Given the new calculation finding, would that change the determining of how the standards are met or not met, or it doesn't matter?
No, in my opinion, if we had found in our initial review that it was still left to this one standard or this one regulation not being met, I still believe I would have made the same findings, specifically related to standard 1 and standard 5 specifically.
Because that calculation didn't impact the 32%.
That's correct. That's correct.
I have a question regarding that. The calculation that was done took out, you removed the sidewalk. Okay, help me understand that. Is that a typical thing not to count when we're counting coverage? Because I thought sidewalks were counted.
Sidewalks are counted for impervious surface in calculating the impervious surface maximum for a site, but what they're not counted towards is building lot or rear yard coverage, because the intent of those two regulations is to prevent vertical elements from overcrowding,
Right.
one, the entire property, and then B, but flat work, patios, sidewalks, driveway aprons, we care about those more from a drainage and stormwater management perspective, and so that's a different calculation. They do they're under our maximum impervious surface calculation.
What is the max? Is it 55? Or
In this
somewhere?
district, it was 40, I believe, in
40,
this,
including,
in this district.
Bear with me here.
Oh, no, it's not. I've taken,
what was, the impervious was higher.
Bear with me. R1.
I can pull it.
One day I'll have all this memorized.
Yeah.
It's 55% in the R1
Okay.
district, which makes sense. And this is also a larger lot, too.
So small compared to the global impervious surface coverage. We're talking about a very small number
Yeah.
if you were looking at that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to add. I mean, it's just that what the applicant is asking for sounds like he's asking for something that's already everywhere. And that's something to note. And I appreciate you putting those pictures of those garages up there, because I remember them when I was a young man, a young boy, running around back there. Some very familiar doors over there. But yeah, there's a lot of large garages in that neighborhood.
thoughts?
Well, the thing is that the question with the decision of the zoning administrator is a kind of a, I think that his decision is right, because there is a deviation, there is a problem with that. I see the need for that. Personally, I think that it could be resolved in a different way. But on the other hand, I am sympathetic towards the request and the need. I see that, and it's a beautiful big lot. It deserves the space for cars, and they're right in this demand. So I don't want our decision to sound like the decision of the zoning administrator is wrong. Or I think it's right. The other thing is, can we satisfy the request of the owners? So it's a big debate inside me about.
Commissioner Mangum.
If the applicant were to make this 3-car garage, I guess, smaller, would it then be allowed?
No, I think that they would still have to seek a variation request, and even, one of and it was in the staff report too, we did have a discussion about potentially reducing it to a 2-car garage instead of a 3-car garage. The 2-car garage would still require a minor variation, but in attempting to meet standard 5, getting to, potentially the least deviation necessary, I think it's reasonable to expect that, this property in this neighborhood, and most of Evanston is going to have a 2-car garage, but it would still require a variation approval for building lot coverage.
So even a 2-car garage would?
Yeah, it would.
Yes.
It would be a lesser variation, but a variation nonetheless. I think would probably be a
So,
31 and some
because
change.
there are, in the front parking pad, that when I was there yesterday, it had 3 cars parked on that, there as well. But that's irrelevant for our discussions.
One other quick discussion that we had talked about, and I realize that it's not ideal, but we did talk about too. Well, if I were willing to grant the variation for a 3-car garage, would the applicant then be willing to remove the non-compliant or existing non-conforming front yard parking pad and the curb cut onto Sheridan? Knowing that would probably not be ideal for the applicant, but we did discuss that.
But the fact that we have impervious surface with the parking pad, so the real debate is whether or not it becomes a garage rather than a parking pad.
Right.
Okay.
I have a couple more questions. Is it possible, well, first of all, this is measured off the rear lot, as you said, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yep.
So the calculus is based upon an arbitrary line being drawn somewhere? Or
Well,
how do you define where the rear lot ends?
So this is for the overall building lot coverage because their rear yard coverage is compliant.
Oh, I see.
So we're
okay.
Yep.
Okay. So then what we're dealing with is a little bit of percent that we need to find. Is there a way to find it? Like, is there a way to do something with the front pad, to trim that pad a little bit? Is there any way that we can creatively create coverage for the coverage request, so to speak, so that my friend over here is not
Sure.
stuck on that? Because it is a real thing to go after,
Yeah.
to be contradictive of zoning.
What's counting towards it is again, keep in mind it is a much larger lot than we normally find in the majority of Evanston, just under 16,000 square foot lot. But what's counting towards that calculation is the footprint of the home, the footprint of the ADU, the front porch. There's and then what ends up resulting as the square footage of their garage, which is just over 700. So it would be. I don't think that on the garage there's any ability to shave off the size of the garage, but they would have to do something either with the existing home, the footprint of the ADU, or that front porch. And just for the record, too, the approval for the variation of the ADU was just for a second floor addition that did not expand on the footprint of the ADU. So that ADU addition doesn't count towards this calculation because it's on a second floor.
So the only way to really, so if you're not going to, make the house smaller, the only real way to accommodate the necessary square footage would be to essentially eliminate the single-story portion of the ADU. Would that do it?
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, that's not what's proposed,
Yeah,
and I don't
yeah.
think anybody is contemplating that, but, yeah. I am also torn because on the one hand, I believe that the interpretation of the zoning administrator was correct. So the question becomes, was it arbitrary? No, I don't think it was arbitrary. Was it ill-considered? Certainly wasn't erroneous. So, but we'd have to kind of find that it was ill-considered. We'd have to kind of agree that with the appeal that the zoning administrator made an incorrect decision with respect to this, and then I believe we'd have to go back and go through the standards again. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So basically, any size structure being added there would probably push it over the building lot coverage, is what we're saying.
They have a little. They are just under the maximum. I think there is 346 square feet left of building coverage to max out at the regulation.
But the two-car garage solution wouldn't work, we think?
A two-car garage would be larger than that square footage, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it would still be a variation, but it would be a lesser variation.
Okay, and then obviously, in that alley, there are properties with kind of the standard on that block, it's multiple parking spaces. So in that respect, it's somewhat consistent with the character of the block.
One could argue it's not consistent because the other places are even larger than what he's proposing.
I guess that's my struggle, though. That's not the question before us, right? It's if this was an arbitrary or ill-considered decision. So that's
Well, it could
or
be,
ill-
it could be ill-considered, I suppose that would be. I don't believe it's arbitrary. I don't believe it's erroneous. So the question is, given the request, what's being asked for, is it ill-considered in this particular instance?
I know we're playing a lot of games with the verbiage and trying to walk around. What does ill-considered even mean? Like, what would constitute ill-considered? As an example, someone in a bad mood, or I mean, what is ill-considered?
I have a definition pulled up.
Okay, go for it.
Apparently, it's an adjective used to describe something done or said without careful thought, planning, or consideration, often resulting in a poor choice or decision. And that's from Merriam-Webster.
Okay.
That's good.
So I guess the question comes down to, is a 3-stall parking pad in this location, which presently exists and has existed for many years, better than having a 3-car garage? I think that really kind of comes down to the consideration. Staff has said that, based on the zoning requirements, that the existing parking pad is the superior choice. The question is whether or not, in view of weather and other reasons that people want to have garages, whether or not we believe that the 3-car garage would be the superior choice. So I think does that kind of get to where we need to make a decision?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that that's exactly how 100% how staff looked at it, right? I would say, like, yes, I agree. Like, the character is established out there. Obviously, these are larger lots in this part of town, in the historic district. Many have, 3+ car garages, but just, holding the application strict to the standards, and especially with standard number 5 being the least deviation necessary. I don't need to belabor it again, but
Right.
that was it. It wasn't necessarily, is it a 3-car parking pad or a 3-car garage? When I was making that decision, it was more about the standards. But the commission is able to
Well,
go down a different path.
we need to consider the standards as well.
No, of
So
course,
it's
of
not
course.
it's not like we can say, well, we like the garage because it's a nice looking garage. So I think that, so that, when you're talking about in one where the zoning code mandated 2 off-street spaces for the main house, but none for the ADU, the fact that there are 2 ADUs doesn't come into so neither would require.
That's
parking.
correct. Well, technically now nothing is required,
Right,
but
that's
previously,
the other thing.
but previously, yes, a single-family home requires 2 off-street parking spaces. An ADU, or in this case, a non-conforming, double ADU, neither requires parking. by
But
the
as you
code.
said, basically, we no longer have a residential parking requirement.
Correct, because of the state law that was just implemented.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts? It really comes down to, should we, grant the appeal of the zoning administrator's decision, at which point we do need to go through standards and find that the standards, particularly 1 and 5, are met. Is that correct? Okay, so, feelings about the garage?
Well, I'm a go. I believe that garage belongs there. I believe it's consistent with the neighborhood. It's not affecting anybody, and I think that what our Webster I'm going to hang my hat on that Webster definition and proceed forward. I think that, if this was standing out as a sore thumb and like you're doing something that's completely incongruent with you can walk up and down the Lakeshore Historic District, and I guarantee you, and I've been living in this district for almost 30 years, and probably over 50% of the houses couldn't be built now based on the current lot coverage requirements. These are big homes with big lots. Sometimes they squeeze one way or the other according to the code. I feel like we shouldn't. I feel like we should approve it on the basis of what I just described.
Well, I'm struggling with those three words because I don't think, I don't think it was done. If we're making it ill-considered is what's catching us up of like, there was thought put into it. There was planning. They, tried to discuss a 2-car garage or other means. So just based on those three words, I would say then, yeah, the decision was correct. But if I were just seeing this garage come to us without that being a factor, the 32% probably would not sway me much. That's not, too far above the deviation. So I'm getting caught up on the first part of this process.
Commissioner Mirachev, what are your thoughts?
I continue to struggle myself, but I think that the decision is right. The zoning administrator, it's a difficult decision, but I believe we have to support it.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess then probably the first question is whether or not we believe would the motion be to uphold the decision of the zoning administrator? How this one's a little different because we don't go through the standards unless we decide that your decision has been ill-considered, right?
That is my understanding. Yes. So,
So what we need is a motion to uphold the decision of the zoning administrator.
the motion would be to grant the appeal because the application
Oh,
is for an appeal.
Sorry,
I just wanted to ask a question to the attorney that's present representing the board.
the testimony is closed.
I'm not testifying. I'm asking if the attorney can give an opinion.
It really is a question of what the motion needs to be. So the motion would be to grant the appellant's appeal.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's what we need, and then we can proceed to vote. And just FYI, a decision requires 5 votes, one way or the other. So if we are split on the decision, then the matter will be continued to our next meeting, and the other commissioners will have to weigh in. So you may not have a decision right away. Okay, so can someone make the motion? So it would be, the motion would be to grant the appeal from the zoning administrator's decision, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I move that we grant the appeal of the denied minor variation case 26ZMNV0022 in terms of
Or
the-
3-2.
What?
Oh, 26.
Oh, I see JV 0032 of the building lot coverage. Is that?
Yeah. Second?
Second.
Okay. Would you call the roll? So the decision, if you vote yes, you're granting the appeal from the zoning administrator's decision, at which point we'd need to, I guess, go through the standards. If it's a no vote, then it just gets continued.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Unless there's 5, and to your point, there has to be 5 concurring votes tonight in order for a decision to be made. Otherwise, it'll continue to the following meeting, in which case any commissioners that weren't present tonight will be expected to watch the video recording between now and then old business will be taken care of at that meeting at the beginning, and they'll be asked to cast their votes.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
All right. Commissioner Harris-Free?
No.
Chair Linbaugh?
No?
Commissioner Mambadi?
Yes.
Commissioner Mangum?
Yes.
And Commissioner Marinchev?
No.
Okay, so we have 2 ayes and 3 nays. So this matter will be continued to the next meeting so that other commissioners can vote. We won't have any more testimony, so it'll just be open for the purposes of the vote.
That's correct. The public hearing will be closed, no new evidence presented, and it will be on the agenda for July 22nd.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, we're back on the 22nd. Okay, the next case is major variations for 3233 to 3249 Central Street. So whose case is this? Okay. Yes, so if you could please read it into the record.
Absolutely. So the applicant, Anthony Kaplanov of Crocia Properties LLC, requests approval of major variations to allow construction of a 3-story townhome development consisting of 10 units, including 2 bonus dwelling units per the IHO, inclusionary housing ordinance, and 20 garage parking stalls in the R4 General Residential District and the OCSC Central Street Corridor Overlay District. As part of this application, the applicant requests approval of the following major variations: Section 6-8-5-8A and 6-15-14-8A to allow a 3-story building where code limits the maximum allowable building heights to 2.5 stories. Section 6-8-5-6 to allow a 55.6% building lot coverage where maximum building lot coverage is limited to 55%. And Section 6-4-6-3A1 to allow accessory structures and uses to cover 50.8% of a rear yard where the maximum accessory structure and use rear yard coverage is limited to no more than 40%. The applicant may seek and the Land Use Commission may consider additional variations or zoning relief this evening as may be necessary or desirable for the proposed development. The Land Use Commission is the determining body for this case in accordance with Section 6-3-8-10 of the Evanston Zoning Ordinance. Staff has reviewed the application and is recommending approval subject to several conditions of approval.
Okay. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come up and present their project?
Hello, everyone. Anthony Kaplanov, my name. 4170 Phyllis Road, out of Northbrook, Illinois. We've met about 3 months ago, and I have to read it. And based on the feedback and direction that's what provided in the previous meeting, we made several revisions to the project to address the committee comments and improve the overall design. And I'm going to go through the variances. Number 1 variance would be 2.5 stories and 3 stories versus 2.5 that's allowed by the code. We also reduce amount of units from 11 to 10. We reduce amount of the garages from 22 to 20, 2 per unit. And we also increase amount of green space as was suggested by the committee by around almost 1,000 square feet, plus There's a space between the garages right now, about a 5-foot spaces between two garages, so everybody. Therefore, also, committee was concerned about the massiveness of the building because we had it all in one line. So therefore, we recessed 2 center units. This one, not sure how it works, but I guess, oh, here. Okay. This is the right, okay. Okay, I cannot find the, Sam, if you can help me on that. This way here? Okay. Oh, that's flipping it? Okay. We recessed 2 center units and made it out of brick, so it would break up the building itself, which is 4 units on left side, 4 units on right side, and the center is recessed by 2 feet. As you can see, we also brought the wall up. Instead of the balcony, we made the wall, new wall, 42-inch height, rather, to cover the 3rd floor. I'd like to mention that as a view from the public right-of-way, the development reads as actually a 2-story building instead of 3. If you look at it, it does not look like a 3-story building. 3-story building. What I like to do, this is the building in Highwood, or Highland Park, I'm not sure, but it's on Park Avenue, which is similar in structure. It's 35 feet high altogether, and I took a picture from about 120 feet away, and you can barely see the 3rd floor, so it looks like a 2-story building. Same thing on our development. If you look at it, you can barely see that it's a 3rd floor. Besides, it's recessed about 32 feet back on the upper level. This design changes substantially, reduce the building visual impact, and creates the more pedestrian-friendly streetscape. We are proposing a 35-foot height, which is significantly lower than a 47-foot height that could be permitted under the current zoning code. Staff encourage us to pursue a lower height design that would produce a more attractive and less imposing building. The revised proposal achieves that objective by reducing both the actual height and the prospective mass of the development while maintaining the high quality architectural appearance. Code compliant 2.5-story building with the pitch roof could have been significantly taller, which is 47 feet, and appear more massive than our proposed 35-foot 3-story flat roof design. The purpose of this variance is not to build higher, it's to use a modern flat roof design instead of the pitch 47-foot roof. The building remains significantly lower than a code-compliant 2.5-story pitch roof building that could go up to 47 feet, which is 12 foot higher than this building right here, while allowing, again, better floor plans, improving the accessibility and more efficient use of the interior space. That's regarding the 3-story. Second variation, we're asking 50.8% rather, rear yard coverage variances compared to 40% permissible by the codes. It's about 10% increase. However, it's important to note that approximately 5% of that increase consists of the garage aprons and driveway paving, which have virtually no visual impact and do not contribute to the perceived mess of the development that was mentioned to us at the last meeting. It was too massive, and we should make it smaller. An actual real yard coverage related increase in a therefore minimum. We now have 5 4-car garages with 5 feet green space in between. And the purpose of this variation is to provide a 2-car garage for every homeowner, including the inclusionary affordable housing units. We believe it's important that affordable units also will receive the same functionality, convenience, and the quality of life amenities as the market sale rents. In addition to this, we decided to make a contribution of $12,000 to the DV station and $33,000 to inclusionary housing funds. That's in regards to the rear yard coverage. We have some concerns or comments from the neighbors regarding the stormwater. Regarding the stormwater, the development will be required to meet all the City Evanston engineering and stormwater management standards before any permits can be issued. We do have a preliminary design that's very much waiting for the final approval. The project cannot legally increase runoff onto the neighborhood properties. Similarity, all the snow removal, utilities, fire protection, and engineering requirements will be compliant with the city regulation and will be reviewed by the city engineering staff. Now we have number 3, lot coverage. Due to the garages, we are 0.6% over the lot coverage for the development. Therefore, we're asking for a variances of 0.6%. This small increase allows us to provide equal 2-car garages for all the residents, including the inclusionary units, ensuring fairness across the entire development. So these are 3 variances that we are looking for. I am open for any questions that any of the staff will have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Okay. Commissioner Mirichev. Body, rather. Okay. Well, I have one. I just wanted
Yes,
to confirm that the part of the engineering requirements is you're going to be developing a stormwater management vault under.
Actually, it was already done, and it went through very much final revisions. It need to be approved, but
there will be.
Yes,
but there
absolutely.
will, so the stormwater runoff will be managed.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Okay, that
was the importance at the last meeting, that all the garages were connected together, and the rear space between the garages and the development was a little bit small. So we took everything into consideration, every little bit of the advice, and we reduced it to 10. Now we have some more room, and we shrink the development, made it a little bit smaller, not that deep, but about 5.5 feet, but almost by 215 feet. That's given us about 1,100 square feet of extra green space, plus between the garages, there is 5 feet of open
Yeah.
space. So
Yeah,
So
I
the
was
answer
just
is
kind of
yes.
looking, at, I see that the variation requests are less than the previous iteration.
yes.
But I just wanted to confirm, because one of the reasons to have more open space is for, stormwater to go into the grass and not the surrounding area. But
Absolutely.
you have the stormwater detention, it'll go into the vault. So I guess the question from staff, does that help mitigate the variation request in this case, or would it? Because you're asking for the lot coverage of the accessory structures of 50% of the yard rather than the 40 that's allowed. Is that a function?
It's compliant with the impervious surface coverage regulations for the lot, which are more related to stormwater management. The building lot coverage is more related to the bulk and mass and appearance
Yeah,
of
no,
the building.
I was looking really at the accessories, the lot coverage of the rear yard accessory structures. And obviously, if you wanted to meet that, the building would have to be smaller. And that, so then the building would, the apartment or the townhouses would be smaller than the building lot coverage that would be allowed. So there's a trade-off there, it seems to me.
The rear lot coverage is a little bit more of a aesthetic thing. I think the primary regulation that would impact stormwater management would be the impervious surface coverage, which the development does comply with. The rear lot coverage is more of an aesthetic and and bulky kind of a regulation to regulate those aspects, but certainly in reducing the amount of rear lot coverage, there is more green space that could accommodate natural infiltration of stormwater, but the underground detention vault will be the main means to comply with stormwater management, and that will capture the runoff, hold it, and then slowly release it into the city's system in Central Street.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Marichev.
First, I have to say that this is a big improvement.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. I was going to ask you, part of my questions are related to the last meeting, and it's mainly on the site plan. So if we can go to the site plan, can we show the site plan on the screen? While we're looking for that, let me ask you the other questions.
Yes.
So I mentioned that you can have not double walls between the units, but a single wall. Why didn't you go to that?
We haven't got to that point yet in the final design, but it will get
It will
adjusted.
save you about 5 feet of the length.
Yeah, it will get
Even
adjusted.
more.
Yeah.
I will tell you from my experience, double wall is better acoustically,
Acoustic, okay.
but single wall is better to save you space. The single wall have to be 2-hour fire rated, double walls, you have double 1-hour walls. So the difference is for you, acoustical, saving money, and size on the other hand, because a single wall is much cheaper than a double wall. So just consider that if you go to this, you can save 5 feet and you can distribute them
Absolutely,
on the
absolutely.
sides, for instance.
Besides, the apartments would
Yeah.
become a little bit wider.
The second thing is inside the garages, you have a 10-inch wall between 2 and 2 in each of these garages. Between 2 cars and 2 cars inside, you have a 2-inch wall. Why do you need that?
2-inch wall or 10-inch?
2-inch wide wall. Do you need to separate the garages for the owners?
You need to separate the garage.
But you can separate them with 5-inch wall. These are small things, but I'm
2-inch wall.
trying to squeeze some
No,
square footage.
Did I hear it when you said 2-inch or 10-inch wall?
10-inch.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for letting me. Yeah, absolutely. It could be reduced. It could be reduced.
Okay, so now looking at this site plan. First, I appreciate that you separate the garages and you're making these corridors, let's call them. The thing is that these corridors are really small, 3 feet. You even cannot have somebody with 2 bags crossing it. Will it be better if you, for instance, just an idea, if you combine the first 2 on one side in a 4-car garage, then leave the 2-car garage, the 2 unit or 4-car, and then combine the other 2 on the other side. This will save you about 6 feet that you can make only 2 corridors, but each one of them will be 6 feet.
My question will be, in the unit, I cannot see it without my glasses, but in the 3rd unit from the left, how would those people be able to come in? Now, every unit have their own kind of a niche,
Yes.
kind of area in between.
You'll have to open the fences. I don't know why you want fences, but once again, this is a proposal to have a little bit more free space. The second thing that I want to mention, the idea that you'll have the garbage cans through the garages out, this is an illusion, and you probably know that. Nobody will carry the garbage can through the garage in case you have such narrow garages. If you have 2 cars inside, you don't have room to carry a garbage can. So think a little bit how you can make it better. On the other hand, if you put the garbage cans out on the alley, you have to screen them. Or even, I don't know whether you can put them on the
Makes
alley.
sense if you combine them together, the left 4 and the
And
right
then,
4,
yes,
you have
yeah.
more room.
So think about this, because it will not make significant change in your percentage,
But it will make more gain.
it will be a little bit better, my view. So,
Okay, got you.
yes,
Thank you.
The other thing is, last time we spoke about the sides of the residential part. You have only 2 windows, and it is a big wall. Put some windows over there. It is a stair and a family room on the ground floor.
We have it, let me think, we have it on the stairs and we have it in the kitchen, I think.
Yes. Think about, make it a little bit better, because it's a side, but everybody walking or driving will see this, and it's a big mess. So just make it a little bit better. Your architect will
I'm
do
taking
that.
everything, believe me, every word that you guys are telling me, I'm taking into consideration.
Yeah,
It's a big
of
project
course.
for us. It's a
All
big
these,
project for the-
as you can see, some of these suggestions and questions are not exactly zoning and exactly about percentages, but they will make your development better, and it will give you some additional green space,
I agree,
which is important.
I agree.
Thank you.
Other commissioners with questions? Commissioner Mabadi?
Yeah, I mean, this definitely is an improvement from the last one that we saw a few months ago. I still am concerned about a couple things that, and I'll be interested in hearing what the community has to say about it. But this building, if I'm correct, it's almost 250 feet long. Is that right?
Correct, 215.
250.
No, 215.
215. So that's a big, long building. And, Commissioner was talking about having windows on basically the east and west side of the development.
Correct.
The rest of the units are basically north and south. That's all you get. And what I was hoping for was, I see what you did with the garage. You create some separation, and I appreciate that, but it kind of does feel like we're just checking the box. We're like, well, we got some green space stuck in between two garages. It's not meaningful. Like if you look at the picture of your front facade, that's green space. You can see the grass, you can see the trees, you can see the benefit of the green space. There's no green space, real meaningful green space benefit, as we were talking about. What are you going to do? If you're a little bit of a larger person, that 3 feet feels like 2 feet, that 5 feet feels like 3 feet. So the hope was to have actual green space breaking up this large structure so that you actually create some additional windows and some meaningful green space. And that didn't happen here on this iteration.
I don't think we could do that. We could not separate them based on the zoning. Is that correct, Sam? The buildings cannot be separated. I don't think so.
It would have created the need for a planned development because in this particular zoning district, it would be then 2 principal buildings on one zoning lot, which requires approval as a planned development. So that's would have changed the entitlements needed.
Okay, well, I'm reflecting upon this from the standpoint of the 10 townhome developmentals on Harrison Street that's further east, and there were two. They each have 2-car garage, and they're vertical, and they're 2-unit duplexes, side-by-side duplexes with space between them, which really creates more of a neighborhoody feel that, is appealing. And this long building really stands out dramatically from what's going on that block. And that does concern me. And I know that a gentleman was talking about the front facade, so I wanted to examine that a little bit as a effort to soften that concern. You were talking about the different color brick. Is the front facade, is it, because the site plan doesn't show that it's recessed, but is there any recess going on with the front?
Yes, 2 middle units are recessed.
Okay, maybe I missed that, because what I was looking at looks like one long.
That was our main concern by talking to the staff. So the 2 buildings.
So if I look at page 47, which is different from the site plan on page 56, I think. Let me get over to that.
Recessed by about 2 feet.
So if you're looking at the site plan, it's going to look like a flat building, but and that's because these bays are projected out. They're kind of like bay windows almost, but much larger. So they don't actually touch the ground at the bottom. So if you look at the site plan, it's all one flat building across the bottom, but there are these projections for the 4 units on both sides. The middle ones are just flat because they kind of stand as like a focal point for the development.
Okay, so when you say it's flat, is it elevated off grade like those are? So it's basically the same as all the other units. It's just black, right?
Right. This is like a 2-foot projection
Yes.
for the 4 units on each side. This one doesn't have a 2-foot projection. It's just flat, so it stands. It almost looks like it's recessed because it doesn't have that projection.
Recessed?
Yes, well, I call it recessed because it's recessed 2 feet towards the rear. Plus, they don't have a green space in between, but there is a separation. I don't remember exactly how much, but I think it's about 3 feet separation between the bump out windows. So they do look not like a whole massive wall. They look like a separate unit.
I see.
Besides the colors, there is if you look at it, I don't know if you can determine from here, but there is a room between the.
What page is that?
Between.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So you can see, right between the buildings.
Okay.
So it breaks all the. And the picture that I mentioned, I noticed that I was working in Highland Park. That building consists of 5 units, and they realistically does not look big at all. I show you that picture. I mean, but that one completely flush. I mean, that, flush, it's a rental unit and it's flush, and it's not massive at all. When we broke it down by recessing it further back, and now every unit have a separation in between, so they're not touching each other because we have that room. They used to touch each other, but got rid of the one unit, utilize that 22 feet, and we spread it between those buildings.
All right, I have another question. The entrances, I'm looking at, you have the two the center mass building, right there. And then to the left and right, it looks like the entrances are recessed. Is that?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So you have some coverage to the elements when you're standing by your door.
Correct.
Now, what about on the black ones? Are those doors recessed, or are you just standing out there?
Now they're just flush.
I see.
So there is nothing there. Well, listen, this is the element.
What it is? I'm just curious. I was just trying to understand it.
Yeah, architectural. Now, this is something that we have to talk to zoning to Sam and see if we can create maybe some not removable but some foldable canopy so we can put above the front doors. So when people come in, they'll have some coverage.
So with the suggestion of thinning the walls, is there a possibility of increasing green space between the garage structures, or is this going to be locked in as it is?
Absolutely, it's possible. We'll consider joining them together, joining four units on the left and 4 units on the right, and then reducing the wall between, and also if we reduce the wall inside the apartments, inside the townhomes, it's going to give us a little bit more, not much, but it's probably going to give us another maybe inch or two in between the buildings, inside the unit.
In such a tight situation, every inch.
Every inch counts,
you have
absolutely,
to
absolutely. I
use.
100% agree.
Well, I would only caution you, the price point that you're trying to achieve, sound is going to be a big deal for those buyers. They want to make sure that they're not hearing the next door neighbor talking about what's for dinner.
This is my main concern.
Yeah.
My main concern, insulation in between, plus the roof insulation. It's pretty much done, but we had to stop somewhere in order to
Right.
hopefully to be able for committee to approve that so we can go further. It's still some work needs to be done, architectural and that.
Okay, and my last concern, you've answered my questions. I'm not troubled by that issue, which in our prior get together was troubling me about the scale because of the breakup of the design. I think it softens the blow of its mass. The elevation, however, I think at some point we're going to have to discuss that, because I know there's community some resolve that the elevation is. I know that what you said, you could design to go up higher, but in a practical sense, you might find that other requests for zoning relief might be a hurdle that would make that problem disappear altogether, whereas this is just a simple, straightforward question of how high is too high, and being able to go to 40 feet doesn't matter. If that elevation is going to create hardship for the neighbors to the north, that has to be examined and figured out how much of a hardship is it. There's a certain reality that hardship comes in a town that's reinventing itself, but we have to also see how much that is, and I don't know the answer to that question. So that's something which we'll talk about. But I do like what you've done so far to the project. Thank you.
Other commissioners with questions? I have one for staff. If changes are made to the garage configuration, is that something that could be approved administratively, or is that something that we need to be cognizant of?
I mean, without seeing the details, it's impossible to say for sure, but the changes that were discussed this evening appear to be relatively minor, in my opinion, and probably could be accommodated via, a substantially compliant modification, but we
Okay,
would reserve
so
that
we just
until
want to make
actually-
sure that when we're making motions, we're talking about plans being substantially in compliance, subject to,
That's what the ordinance is always going to read, so that'll be covered. Well, I guess
right,
this
this
won't
is-
have an ordinance, but I believe the conditions of approval are worded for substantial compliance.
okay, because since we're, again, final decision on this case, we want to make sure that in furthering making this project more consistent with zoning, we don't box ourselves or box you into a
Absolutely.
corner.
Yes, and the conditions as outlined in the staff memo read as substantial compliance. So we should be covered.
Any other commissioners with questions? Okay. In that case, we can move on to public comment and public testimony, so you can sit down for the moment. And I don't know, I have 5 people signed up on my handy-dandy list. So I'll go through, and I have 3 minutes, each of you, and staff will let me know if there's anybody online who wants to say something. So Lauren Ibarra, followed by Frank Ibarra, and then Leonard Kaplan.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Ibarra. I live at 3232 Hartzell Street, north of and across the alley from the project site. I'd like to first acknowledge the applicant's effort to reduce the mass of the garages and to direct the stormwater runoff generated by them away from the alley and back toward the rear yard. But the design revisions do not go far enough. The request for 3 major variations is still too great. The fundamental truth remains that on this blank canvas of a flat rectangular lot, any hardship meeting the requirements of the zoning code is self-imposed. It is a result of an attempt to add too much density to a lot that cannot support it. Per the purpose statement in the zoning code, the Central Street Corridor Overlay District seeks to preserve existing character and scale. There is no precedent for a development of the proposed density on this block or on any other block nearby, including within the Central Street Corridor Overlay District. I respectfully disagree with staff's analysis of the lot coverage variations granted over the past 26 years as a means of showing precedent. 2 of the 4 approvals were on the lots flanking the subject property to the east and west. These 2 lots are non-conforming at just 25 feet wide. That's 10 feet below the R4 zone's minimum lot width requirement of 35 feet. I would argue that those homeowners likely had a good case for exceeding the lot coverage requirements based upon hardships stemming from the constraints of their uncharacteristically narrow lots. I'm a residential architect working primarily in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding suburbs. I specialize in high-end custom and speculative single-family homes. So without intimate knowledge of the subdivision process, just for fun this morning, I did a quick feasibility study of my own to make sure I could back up my claim that this site can in fact be redeveloped without seeking major variations. It seems to me that the project site could be subdivided into 6 equal single-family lots of approximately 37 foot 6 inches wide. Putting a 20 by 22 car garage in the rear yard gives you 32% rear yard coverage and leaves you with 1,637 square feet of footprint to work with for the main house. That brings the total lot coverage to just 45%. Next, I found a house we had designed for a lot in DC with similar dimensions and zoning constraints. I put it on my newly created site plan to make sure it would fit. It did. This house had over 4,000 square feet of finished space spread over 4 floors, 4 bedrooms, each with its own ensuite bath, 2 offices, an elevator, a screened porch, a roof deck, and a loft tucked into the gabled roof with dormers so that the house would not exceed 2.5 stories. All of this is just to say that this site can support new development that is attractive to buyers, profitable to developers, sensitive to the existing neighborhood context, and in conformance with the zoning code. I urge you commissioners to please preserve the existing character and scale of our beautiful neighborhood and to vote no on these major variations. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Ibarra, followed by Leonard Kaplan, and then James Gattel, I think. Go ahead.
Frank Ibarra at 3232 Hartzell. And, I have some similar comments, you might imagine, as my wife did. So since March, we do acknowledge that there have been some attempts to reduce the size of the variations, but they persist with a general design approach in format and size that continue to make the proposal problematic. What wasn't mentioned just now is that the third floor in the back continues to overlook our backyards. We find that the proposal is not congruent with the surrounding area. There's no peculiarity about the property itself. As mentioned, it's flat, rectangular, with no obstructions. I see this as a matter of choice, one of many, those which you just heard outlined as an example. It's a want to build 10 or 11 townhomes in a desired format and size when there are other options. We've heard in the past that it's tragic. There's a tragedy when you see two zones butting up against each other. And for that reason, we have to consider holding stricter to the standards in these types of situations. There have been some comments about whether or not this type of development would impact our home values. And I'll tell you, as recent home buyers in the neighborhood, it would. We made conscious decisions during the home buying process not to purchase a home where there was a large building in the back. And we found that where there were homes with large buildings in the back, those were selling at lower prices of kind that didn't have large buildings in the back. So I hope you take our comments into consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Leonard Kaplan?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name's Leonard Kaplan. I've lived at 3220 Hartzell Street for over 30 years. We're catty corner for where this prospective development is. I'm not a businessman. I'm not a construction person. I'm not a building person. But I can tell you the alley is an unpaved, single-lane alley where we have walked with our kids, our grandkids, our dogs. We bike through this alley. It is very narrow and is sometimes difficult to navigate when there are cars. To have 20 parking spaces in an area as dense as this, there is no place from Prospect all the way down to Central Park Avenue along that whole alley, which has a density of parking spaces like this. And in the wintertime, this is also difficult because this area isn't plowed, and sometimes it's very difficult to get cars out. So to have 20 parking spaces in this very, very concise area, I think is really hazardous and potentially a safety issue. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. James? And I apologize for butchering your name.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is James Gavi. I live on 3244 Hartzell Street, not as long, for 15 years, not as long as my neighbors. I'm here with my daughter and my wife. My daughter walks the dog on the alley you just had. She comes with mud on her shoes every time she walks the dog when it rains, since it very easily floods. So while I acknowledge, like my neighbors, that some improvements have been made to the proposal since the March meeting, I continue to oppose the application. The variations, in my view, should be granted only when an applicant demonstrates a genuine hardship unique to the property and provides clear evidence that the requested relief will protect neighboring properties, preserve effective stormwater management, and serve the public interest. In this case, I do not believe that standard has been met, and in my view as well, the substantial compliance standard that we had has not been met. So first on the no demonstrated hardship. The property is a relatively flat and regular parcel as we already had. There is no unusual topography, irregular shape, steep slope, or other unique physical condition that prevents development consistent with the zoning ordinance. The need for this variation appears to arise from the scale of the proposed project than from any hardship inherent in the land itself. The variation process exists to address unique property conditions, not to accommodate a development program that exceeds the limits of established zoning code. My son, in the last meeting, outlined the legal precedents relating to that condition. Second, the requested increase in the rear yard coverage raises serious concerns, as we already had. Rear yard coverage limits help preserve open space, maintain permeable surfaces, and reduce stormwater runoff. The proposal seeks to replace additional green space with garages, pavement, garage access areas, and other impervious spaces. The practical result is less land available to absorb rainfall and more water directed toward the public alley and neighboring properties. This comes at a time when Evanston is working to improve resilience to heavier rain events. Reducing permeable open space moves in the wrong direction. In addition, the developer is proposing to cut 2 of the trees currently on the property and to replace them with about 10 trees. In my view, that's not enough. Third, and this is really important, I really want to emphasize this, critical information is still missing. The city's own engineering review concluded that additional geotechnical information was needed. It was not provided, and it has been punted to the permitting stage. Yet the commission is being asked to approve the variation before that information is available, sight unseen, as we say in law. If that report is important enough to require during the permit review, it is important enough to have before deciding whether the requested zoning relief should be granted. The report could help evaluate groundwater conditions, soil infiltration capacity, drainage characteristics, and the flooding risks, issues that are central to determining whether rear yard coverage is appropriate for this site. In addition, we've heard about the retention system, the underground retention system. Many of the neighbors here have tried things like that, and we know how often they clog. So that is no solace. Finally, these concerns are not theoretical. We, the neighbors, are the ones who live there. We can tell you. Last time I said when I bought my property, there was a water line in the basement indicating the flooding from previous seasons. Flooding happens regularly. We've spent lots of money in that neighborhood to protect our properties from water damage. And this comes at a time when insurance rates have really increased. Ours increased by 30%. So we are squeezed between a hard and a rock and a hard place. You know, the fight between the governor and State Farm has resulted in this 30% increase, not only by State Farm, but by many insurance companies. So it's important. So preserving the permeable space is therefore not simply an aesthetic preference. It is an important safeguard for homes, neighborhood, and the public infrastructure. When a developer seeks permission to exceed established limits on rear yard coverage, the burden should be on the applicant to demonstrate clearly there will be no adverse consequences. For all these reasons, I respectively submit that the standard for granting these variations have not been met. The record does not demonstrate hardship unique to the property itself, and important questions remain unanswered regarding drainage, stormwater management, and the impact of increased rear yard coverage on neighboring properties. The city's own engineering review identified additional geotechnical information was necessary. As I said, it's not been provided. Under these circumstances, I do not believe there is sufficient basis to conclude that the required relief is justified or that it can be granted without potential harm to neighboring properties and the public interest. So I conclude by respectively submitting that until the applicant provides the technical evidence necessary to support these requests or to disprove these foreseeable harms, I urge the Commission to deny the proposed variations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last person on my list is Mary Sampson. And I don't know if anybody else plans to speak, but I'll ask you in a minute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Mary Sampson. I live at 3213 Hartzell. I've owned my property for 30 years, and my concerns are many about this proposed development. In addition, just to the aesthetics and the massive size of it, and not keeping with the current neighborhood, my even larger concern is better expressed actually by James before me, and that is the storm drainage situation. And so my concern is the permeation of the ground, that if the owners of the townhouses choose to have paved patios instead of grass, that the density in the whole area makes the soil drainage situation worse. And this comes in the context of just in the country, the overall increasing proliferation of storms and weather-related emergencies that we're seeing across the country and in our area, and also that in the Cook County area, I believe that the sewage and the storm drainage situation is becoming more and more difficult for the county to manage. And so basically for these reasons, I'm very concerned, and I ask the commissioners to not grant the variances that are requested. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Was there anyone online who wished to speak?
If anyone online wishes to speak, you may unmute now.
Okay. Hearing no one, was there anyone else who wished to speak in the audience that didn't sign up? Okay. With that, would the applicant like to make a closing statement?
We do appreciate hearing from the neighbors, even when we have a different perspective on this. Number one, I like to mention that by the zoning, we are allowed to do 12 units. We're doing less than that. I'm not sure, I was not here, but I think that property used to have homes on the property. I think they used to have either 2 flats, 4 flats, something like that. They had like 4 properties there. So they already had some drainage that they never had any problem with because of the previous homes. We do have a preliminary design that probably 85% approved by the village engineer that would solve all the issue with the water and storm management. Okay, I cannot decide that. I don't think the neighbors are qualified to decide that. It's up to my engineer and the village engineer to make sure that it's going to be appropriate. Obviously, I built a lot of homes, and I don't remember any permits are being approved unless the most important to me, engineering, was approved by the village. And because we do have a tremendous storage water system, there's storage that would hold more than enough to compensate for all the water from the roof. In regards to the privacy, I don't know if you can see it or not. If you have a rear elevation there, I believe one of the neighbors' concern was the privacy that can still look into to their backyard. We brought the windows up so above the 6 feet. So the third level has one window that's about 6.5 feet high, almost by the ceiling. So realistically, there is nothing that no one will be able to look outside from the third level. I think that was one of the concerns that I heard last time, and I'm hearing that today. Do you have elevation on the back? But there is a window. Garage. And this is minor adjustments that could be made, obviously, to accommodate every. See right there, the windows on the third level, they're way high. So you cannot get to the windows right there on the top. We redesigned it. We took that comments was done last time, so we put the windows on the top. You know, I cannot add anything else just by adding that we are allowed to do 12 units. The storm water management will be met and will absorb all the water. It's probably going to even make it better because it's extensive drainage system that's storing water under the garages. So we basically, to summarize it, I don't want to keep mentioning it again, that by the professionalism of Sam and the staff, they recommend to reduce the height because with the little tweaks, we could have achieved way higher building that I don't like it. Staff doesn't like it, and I think Evanston not going to like it. And if we build it, it's going to be there forever. I mean, it's going to overlive every one of us. So based on this, our goal not to maximize what the zoning allows, but to present a design that better fits for that site. We believe those modest variances result in a better project than the taller project that could have been accommodated. We, for those reasons, we respectfully asking for your full approval, stuff. I know it's only 5 of you, but that's what we're doing. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, thank you very much.
And thank you to the neighbors as well. I understand their concern as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, I will close the public testimony and the public record, and we can move into deliberations. So, general thoughts on the proposal and the requested variations. You want to start?
Well, I will start. I think that in, let's call it substantial completion, I believe this works for me. I still have concerns, and I hear the concerns of the neighbors. It's still a long building. On the front, Central Street, it's improved, and I think it's okay for me. The rear one, the rear facade, it still needs improvement, but I believe the final design probably will be better. The garages, I still consider that they could be configured in a slightly different way so that they may allow a little bit more green space. I would agree that we can rely on staff to check this with the next phases of the project. The water issue is significant, but once again, this is technical problem that should be resolved both between the design team and the city, so that there are no concerns and there are no problems there. I would agree with the concern that 20 cars in this alley at one and the same time, maybe leaving or entering, let's say, peak hours, it's a burden. It's a problem. but it will be quite similar even if this were several single-family homes. It's the number of cars probably will be, it could be less, but it will be similar. So I'm leaning towards letting this project go.
Okay, other thoughts? Commissioner Mangum?
So the applicant came before us before. The city made recommendations, we made recommendations, the applicant made changes. I supported the project last time, and I still support this project.
Okay, thank you. Thoughts?
So I'm on the fence post about this. There's a lot of stuff rolling through my head right now. The property is at least in the MLS, it's a 28,827 square foot lot based upon the R4 code. The applicant's correct. You can build 10 units there as of right. You could build 5 2-flats, which would constitute 10 units as of right, which would be a much smaller footprint. You could build 5 2-flats with an ADU over a garage, which would be a much smaller footprint. You could have a lot more green space, create a lot of value in design by doing a different flow here. But this is, for me, I'm having a hard time with hearing the problem with water. And yes, the neighbors are not qualified engineers to tell you what is appropriate for retention, but they are qualified to know if they're getting water or not in their basement. They are qualified to assess whether that's coming from above or from below. And I think that if we have a water problem there, that is an issue. That's a big issue, and I'm very concerned about that. I'm less concerned about the use of the alley because and I am sympathetic about kids and grandkids using that alley, but the alley is really not intended to be a play area. I mean, or an area that's not the appropriate use. Alleys, you move vehicles in and out of your property and you go about your business. So at the same time, I recognize that concern because that's how they've been using it. So we can't fully ignore it, but we can't fully embrace it. We have to hear that. The other issue that I had was with, and I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to self-promote, but I have a long history of being involved in the residential real estate space. I have real concern about having a building where you have windows that are already being questioned on the north end that you're going to make some adjustments to, and there's hardly any windows, with just windows in the front. These units are priced at such a level where those kinds of buyers love light. There's not going to be light in, 8 of these units. It's going to be dark, and I feel like that is that, and then adding, and again, that's outside, I'm sorry, that is kind of outside the purview of my commission here, but just like we share our thoughts about design, I'm sharing this thought about design as well. I think that's a derogatory aspect of this development. I like the facade in the front. I think the design was great. There are a whole lot of ways to develop on this land that would be hugely profitable for a developer to do, that would be able to be done meeting many of the standards that the city has set in motion that are, many of them are aspirational in our master plan about increasing green space, increasing affordable. What was there before was townhomes, small townhomes for middle-class working families. We're replacing it with $1.4 million, $1.49 million residences, which I don't oppose on principle because we need people who can afford to buy homes like that as well. But when we talk about traffic patterns, those houses are going to require 2-car garage. There's no way around that. So you're going to have, you're taking 10 units when we compare what we could do or what we did do to what we are doing and trying to make arguments about elevation and make arguments about density. What was there were 10 units. I believe they were 10 or 12 units. And they were 3-bedroom, 1 to 1.5 bath, bi-level townhomes, if I'm correct. Now, you guys would know because you live there. I'm pulling from my memory. And those properties were at the time, 15 years ago, were selling in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. So we've now, gone through iterations of owners, torn it down, have land. Now we're faced with this right now. And I think we need to consider our master plan agenda with this. Is this meeting those requirements? Are we getting these other issues addressed? And I'm unconvinced about that because slotting in an extra couple feet between garages does not give me a sense of, wow, we really made a move on greenscaping here. It's not that. It's just checking off we did it. And it's not great. So for me, I want to approve it because I want to see development. I want to see big development in this town. At the same time, I want to make sure that we're being fair-minded about what we are tasked to do as a city. And this feels like it's pulling on both of those strings. So I'm stuck. I'll decide though, but at the moment I'm stuck.
I think I saw a written public comment about this, and my only concern is the rear yard coverage. And the public comment was kind of posing the same question I'm wondering, is if there is a way to prevent future owners from removing the smaller yards that are back there, like paving them over.
So any type of like backyard patio flat work does require a permit, and the intention behind that is some of the engineering concerns around drainage, but then for zoning to also make sure that they're still compliant with, in that case, it would be impervious surface coverage, which ties to the draining concern as well. So yes, any of those individual owners would apply for permits, and we look at it so in this case, this is the zoning lot, and so it would be based on the zoning lot size.
Okay. And then my other just random question, I'm just curious, how was the $33,000 affordable housing donation figured?
That was the applicant's volunteered amount that they felt was appropriate.
Okay. I guess it's me, and I think I'm generally supportive of the project. I was concerned about particularly the the rear yards and the size of those. It's very close on the building lot coverage, so. And the properties adjacent, that's not an unreasonable amount, but I am concerned about the size of the yards. Although, in my estimation, the fact that they're going to have to comply with the MWRD requirements somewhat mitigates that concern. So I'm generally supportive, and I was more comfortable when I saw that this current iteration is a pretty significant reduction in the amount of variations that are being requested. That's kind of where I am. So I guess. With that, I guess it's appropriate for me to go through the standards. And again, if you intend to vote no on the project, if I get a standard that you believe is not met, speak up. So, okay, number one, the requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or property values of adjoining properties. While, as staff noted, building lot coverage regulations have been exceeded on both to the properties both to the east and the west, which I believe are R4 zones. And it doesn't appear to have had an adverse impact on adjoining properties. And quite frankly, I think the fact that this lot has been vacant for so long now And I'm sure that having uncertainty as to what will eventually be built probably has more of an impact. As noted by staff, again, the third floor is recessed, both on the north and the south, I believe. There's kind of a open air on the south as well as, or the north as well, is there not? I believe.
Just on the south side, I believe, is the recessed.
That's recessed,
Yeah.
but there was like a patio area on the north as well, was there not?
On the rooftop area, I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, it is kind of recessed, which is, not quite the same as kind of the half-story gable roof situation that is common in other similar kinds of developments. But so I believe that standard number 1 is met.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
So when we talk about elevation and whatnot, we can't punish a development for being too tall when the the zoning allows that to happen. That's not even-handed. We were dealing with this with another development where I had asked the opposing neighbor, what's fair if you're in the same zoning as they are? What's fair? Like you can't say no to one guy to protect another when they have the same zoning. In this case, we have a different zoning. In this case, we have to consider the impact. And there's ample evidence up and down Central Street where there's high elevation density against the Hartzell up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily struggle with putting taller buildings behind single-family residences. It's a proven reality that we can all get in the car and drive and see it's there. The thing that got me thinking about this first test is the water and the water retention, and that seems to be an unknown, undetermined element in this development, and that would have a negative, may not, it could have a negative impact on these people that are I'm looking at the property address and their address, they're literally behind it. They're not on Michigan Avenue or on Seward talking about this. They're literally behind this project. They will experience this project's growth and creation and afterwards what's there for the rest of time. So we need to ask ourselves, is this project going to harm their house from a water retention standpoint? And I don't know the answer to that question. And I feel like that is a question that should be answered in order to determine whether to approve this project or not.
Okay. All right. Standard number 2, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. The proposed structure complies with all of the minimum setback requirements in the R4 district and complies with at least the numerical height allowance of 35 feet. As noted, the third story is going to be recessed. And, again, the intent of the R4 district is to provide for a mix of single residential types at moderate density, including multiple family housing, 2-family dwellings, townhouses, and single-family detached dwellings. The variations allow for construction of a townhouse development in a zoning district where this housing type is allowed. Number 3, the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. The location of the subject property is entirely vacant and along corridor areas defined in the comprehensive plan, which makes it suitable for low-density multifamily development. The corridor location, which includes frontage along Central Street, applies only to properties along the major street and is not a situation that extends into the interior of the surrounding neighborhood. Variations to allow excess building lot coverage have been granted to properties at both the east and the west, which is a situation that's not generally prevalent in the neighborhood. Number 4, okay.
Number 3, alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property.
Right.
It's a rectangle. What's the difficulty?
All right, so you disagree with that standard?
I'm just saying, there's no difficulty. I can, in my mind, shut my eyes and draw a million different ways of designing a building that's not going to be hard to do. It's a question of economics, of course, but that property is not dealing with anything peculiar. And what has been done on other properties, just because it was done doesn't mean that we know why. We'd have to understand why it was done if we wanted to argue that this is equally of equal merit because there were permits issued. Maybe there is peculiarity over there that we don't know about. This property has no peculiarity. It's a straight up clean piece of real estate and it's developable.
Okay. Number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. There are a variety of ways that the building lot coverage could be reduced, such as using open parking pads as opposed to garages, which would mean that certain units would not have access to enclosed off-street parking, which could affect the marketability of the property. The existing height regulations, which would allow a 47-foot building per the IHO allowances, is allowed, but within the underlying base district, it's 2.5 stories or 35 feet minimum. So there's a disconnect with respect to the height limitations. Number 5, the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property, or while granting the variation will result in additional income to the applicant, and while the applicant for the variation may not have demonstrated that the application is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property, the Land Use Commission has found that public benefits to the surrounding neighborhood and the city as a whole will be derived from approval of the variation that include but are not limited to any of the standards of Section 6-3-6-3 of this chapter. As noted, obviously the developer wants to make as much money as he can from this project, but the applicant has also proposed a $12,000 contribution to the city for a Dibby bike station, and agreed to make the building solar ready, and that each unit will include EV charging capabilities, and has also proposed a $33,000 contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund, and then also has agreed to provide one IHO unit on site. Number 6, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. Staff's analysis is the hardships as described have not been created by the applicant. Any disagreement with that standard? Okay. Number 7, the requested variation requires the least deviation from the application regulation among the feasible options identified before the Land Use Commission issues its decision or recommendation. as I think has been noted, this proposal is requires substantially less variations than the previous project proposal did. So that one of the issues is the height restriction, which has been addressed. The building lot coverage, again, could be reduced if basically if the townhouses were smaller. It would be one way, but the focus on the height and the lot coverage has really focused on the setbacks, the space between the garages, and so that I believe this standard is met. So any other disagreement with the standards as I've set them out? And then I would note that we have 7 department recommended conditions that I presume the applicant has agreed to. All right, thank you. And so with that, we'll entertain a motion with respect to this project. Who wants to make the?
I make a motion to approve the major variations in case number 26ZMJV-0026 for the property located at 3233 through 3249 Central Street.
With the conditions recommended by staff?
With the conditions recommended by city staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
All right. Commissioner Harris-Free?
Yes.
Commissioner Mombadi?
No.
Commissioner Mangum?
Yes.
Commissioner Miranchev?
Yes.
And Chair Limbaugh?
Yes, with 4 in favor and 1 against. Again, this is a project that requires 5 concurrent votes, so this project will automatically be continued to our next meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, and that concludes that meeting. We have one other item on our agenda, which is a text amendment. Who's going to handle this one? You can go. You're done. But this will continue at the July 22nd meeting.
Hopefully you understood everything that I was speaking to because of the accent.
Sorry, bear with me here. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance Title VI of the City Code. This request is being made on behalf of the City of Evanston in order to adjust definitions related to temporary uses, specifically establishing, it's kind of 2 parts, so specifically establishing a definition of the word temporary, and then adjusting language within the definition of use temporary in section 6-18-3. The Land Use Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council, who is then the determining body for this case in accordance with 6-3-4-6 of the Evanston Zoning Code. So, as I mentioned, so this is was sent to staff on referral from council members with really two intents. So the first being to correct a conflict in the code related to what may be permitted as a temporary use, and then secondly to establish a separate definition just for the word temporary in order to kind of address a secondary situation. And just to kind of add some additional context, at the time this referral was made, there was an application to the city for a unique use for the Chicago Stars to play at Ryan Field, which is what kind of spurred this whole conversation. At that time, they were seeking approval as a temporary use. However, verbiage in the unique use rules in Chapter 3 of the code would not have allowed that use. There's language in that section that says that a use that is temporary in nature cannot be considered through the unique use or the special use processes. So the addition of the definition of the word temporary establishes that definition. And although the Stars did withdraw that application, the referrers desired to have the option to have some uses that might be considered temporary in nature apply as a unique use or as a special use. Uses, and based on the definition that's in the packet and that we'll go through, uses that may be temporary in nature would have to be at least 30 consecutive days.
Less than.
Less than 30 consecutive days. Well, yeah.
No, that's something else. That's.
Yep. So I'll first kind of identify the conflict that we have in the code. It's some minor pieces, but there's a lot of weight to them, and it creates conflict when trying to administer temporary uses. So the definition of use temporary is a land use of a duration less than 90 days or as listed, allowed, and regulated in section 6-4-8-3 of that title. But then you get to section 6-4-8-3, and it specifically says the following temporary uses and no others are permitted in certain zoning districts. And then I won't read these out loud, but then you get to the list of specific temporary use types that are allowed in residential districts and non-residential districts. So you have one part in the code in the definition that says it can essentially be these uses or anything else, but then you have the actual section of the temporary uses that say the opposite. They say, no, this is all that you can permit as a temporary use. So the code language that was submitted to us changes the definition of use temporary to just a land use allowed and regulated in that section of the title, and it removes the language of a duration, a land use of the duration less than 90 days or as listed, so that it's clear as to what can be allowed through a temporary use permit, which are permits that staff can approve. And then the new definition is for the word temporary, which is any land use of a duration less than 30 consecutive days, unless otherwise included in that section.
Okay, and those uses in that section are all like 3 days for a festival and.
Yeah, they're pretty specific. There's also there's not a time period established for contractors' offices and things that are associated with construction work. Frankly, a lot of these things we don't even get permits for. The most common one I would say is for Christmas tree sales and things like that. At some point, especially with hopefully the zoning code update going forward, we would like to re-examine these to update them. I'm sure there's some temporary uses that were missing in there, but for the purposes of this referral and just knowing that we have the update.
Yeah, it's probably like the folk festival. It's probably one of them.
Yeah, and we have some flexibility. We're economic development's working on some policies and other things around pop-up shops. We have an ability to deal with those kind of outside of temporary uses.
What about, I'm thinking, it was discussed, one of the things that could happen over by Ryan Field is that they might put an ice skating ring there sometime in the wintertime. Is that would exceed 30? Is that built in already?
Ryan Field and the zoning district on right, that's its own animal. It has very specific built-in.
I see, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, we're talking about, pop-up festivals, fairs, Custer Street things.
This even talks about, kind of outdated in my opinion too, but this also talks about, like garage sales, real estate offices, tents. I mean, some of these things are common, tents can't be up for more than 10 consecutive days. But again, the intent was because we had two kind of just conflicting pieces of code. One piece of code said, this is all you can have as temporary uses. But then the definition said, you can have those, anything else of a duration less than 90 days. And that's, I don't think, what the intent was. So it's to clean it up.
Okay. Discussion, any more questions? If not, we need a motion. Oh, no, I guess I have to go through standards, don't I? All right, standards.
I guess we should call to see if there's anybody here for a public hearing.
Not in this room. I don't know if anybody cares online.
It looks like we do not have anybody in attendance online
Okay,
any longer.
well, in that case, I will go through the standards. To recommend approval to the City Council, we need to establish whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Comprehensive General Plan as adopted and amended from time to time by the City Council. The proposed text amendment will provide clarification and consistency, considering what is considered temporary, as well as the associated timelines in support of the City Council or the Comprehensive Plan goals. Whether the proposed amendment is compatible with the overall character of existing development in the immediate vicinity of the subject property. The proposed amendment provides clarification for existing zoning units, uses, and will not alter the physical appearance of really the community, I don't think. Number 3, whether the proposed amendment will have an adverse impact on the value of adjacent properties. The proposed amendment provides clarity for how temporary is defined and is not expected to have an adverse impact on the value to adjacent properties of the temporary uses. Each temporary use will continue to be considered on an individual basis. Number 4, the adequacy of public facilities and services. The proposed amendment will not affect public facilities and services. As stated above, what we're doing is just each temporary use will be considered on an individual basis, and in any event, we're just changing definitions. With that, could I have a motion for a recommendation for the City Council?
I move that we approve the text, recommend to the City Council approval of the proposed text amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Call the roll.
All right. Commissioner Harris-Free?
Yes.
Commissioner Mabadi?
Yes.
Commissioner Mangum?
Yes.
Commissioner Miranchev?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Limbaugh?
Yes. With 5 in favor and none against, the recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council. Okay, and obviously, I guess next on the agenda is public comment. We have no public. Staff updates.
Just a couple of quick updates. So we are currently back into drafting an urban design ordinance, which came to us again on referral from City Council. It's also included in the comprehensive plan as well. It's in the drafting phase. We're still early on it, but at some point, we do plan on bringing that ordinance to the Land Use Commission probably late summer, early fall, just as a discussion item. It'll be traveling to all BCs as a discussion item as we continue to draft that ordinance, which would, as it's written now, potentially lead to another advisory body related to urban design and architecture. So stay tuned on that. We also, in response to the last meeting, we heard commissioner feedback regarding packet sizes and the length of packets, and we are working with our legal division to see what opportunities we have to reduce packet sizes. Obviously, we can't. We have to include a lot just from a legal perspective and also just to give the commission a full understanding of the case. But there may be some opportunities to omit certain documents that may not be relevant to the standards that they're reviewing. So we'll do our best to see what we can do to reduce packet sizes based on our discussions with the legal department. Next Land Use Commission meeting obviously is on July 22nd, and then we do also anticipate both meetings in August having cases going on them. We have a pretty substantial caseload, as well as some other text amendments that were submitted to us by the City Council as well.
Do we have dates on that?
It would be, yes, we do.
I mean, is it up in the calendar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2nd and 4th.
Yeah.
And,
So August 12th and then August 26th.
12th and 26th. Okay.
Yep.
And you mentioned that the Urban Design Committee will be urban design and architecture.
It's pretty early to tell right now. I mean, it's going to be urban design, but it's going to focus both on the kind of design and of the public realm, but also there will be architectural elements to it too. Yes.
Will it be just, let's say, consulting, or it will be with some kind of mandatory decisions?
It's hard to know right now because we're so early in it, but the idea right now, anyways, that could change is that it would serve as an advisory board the applicants would come to that board for preliminary review of their plans before coming to the Land Use Commission. Mm-hmm. There may be just one phase when they submit to them. There may be multiple phases. We don't know. And we don't know if it would apply to all development projects or if it would apply to just some development projects based on, if it's a plan development or if it's zoning or in a certain area. We just haven't gotten there yet. And then, at some point in the future, if it gets adopted by council, there would be a separate board or commission that would be established. They would put together design guidelines and their rules and procedures. So it's a long ways out.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Nothing further. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.